Oh, Glenn, that's not where we want to start.
It is where I want to start.
Okay.
Also, the battle against Georgetown coming up, and finally getting back into the rankings.
Well, real happy with our win at Villanova. I thought we showed good toughness. They're a good team. It's not an easy place to win. And, we had, Morgan had a little bit of a sickness, wasn't feeling great. Brooke Littrell, our grad transfer, didn't make the trip because she got sick in the middle of the night the day before we left. So, we went into that game thinking we might only have 9 players available and not really knowing what Morgan's status would be. I certainly didn't think she'd play 37 minutes and play as well as she did. So, it was a good win. But it's probably a good time for us to have a week off in between games because I feel like, I was just saying, we've got a bunch of 23-year-olds and their bodies are just a little bit harder to recover. It's a little bit harder for them to recover than the 18 and 19-year-olds. So I know that people like Molly and Lauren and Jamie and Morgan probably appreciate having a couple days off practice this week. And going into Georgetown, I think, we just played them like 2.5 weeks ago. In fact, I think yesterday was only their 3rd game in between when we played them last and this Saturday, and we've only played 3 games total between. So familiarity will help. They've got the best rebounder in the league, R.L. Jenkins. They've got the leading scorer in the league, Kelsey Ransom. So, they haven't played, from a record standpoint. I know they're probably disappointed, but they're a dangerous team. They've played a lot of people close. So, it's, we got 2 in a row at home, and I think, like I said, it was a good time to get a little bit of a breather from playing every 3rd day.
Even though there are home games after Senior Day coming up on Saturday, do you kind of like the fact that Senior Day is a little earlier, the way you kind of get the emotions out and all that stuff, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever done it before, but I think it's fine. I think we basically laid it at the players' feet and said, do you want to do Senior Day early because of the fact that we play Villanova at 7:30 on a Sunday night and we have all these Minnesota seniors, and it's not necessarily even their parents coming down to watch. It's grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles and maybe high school friends who want to see them play one last time. So we just said, would you rather do it earlier? And they thought about it and talked about it and talked to their families and said that's kind of where they wanted to land. But I think the emotion of Senior Day is always something that you worry about because it's games, when you get to this time of year, games are important and so you don't want to say you want to take the emotion out of it, but if you can maybe have it be earlier where they're not quite as conscious of, hey, this is my last home game, because it isn't, in fact, their last home game, maybe that's a good thing.
What kind of turnout are you hoping for, given that it is going to be ceremonial in nature for parts of the
I hope.
Honor the group,
Sure, I think that I would want to get out and watch these guys play 3 more times, but definitely on Saturday because I think they deserve it. This group has been incredible to coach. They're fun to watch play. I can't tell you how many emails and notes I get from, moms and dads who talk about the impact that this group has had on their daughter, primarily their daughters, but even their sons. And I think, again, that's nothing against any of the previous teams that we've had or iterations of the team, but I think this group probably has moved the needle more in the Omaha community with youth than any team, or any group of teams that I've ever had. And so I hope that we have a great turnout. I hope the weather isn't as bad as maybe it has been or could be, but regardless, it's in the middle of the afternoon, so you got plenty of time to get your car out.
Talk about what this group's meant.
Sorry.
But what about you as a coach and to this program, how they've helped throughout the game here and had a big impact on you too?
Yeah, they have. Kirsten walked by my office the other day and said, I hope you're enjoying this group. Because I had to remind her a couple times in the fall to enjoy her group because she had a veteran team that she was really fond of that, there's a stress that you put on yourself because you want it to, you want excellence at the highest level for a group that you really love. But you also have to, constantly kind of step back and appreciate who they are as people and how committed they've been and how many times they've chosen Creighton, because nowadays it's not just that they choose you the first time, it's they choose you after year one, after year two, after year three. So luckily, as a philosophy major, I am able to step back, maybe slightly easier than some people because that's just what I feel like you ought to do.
Do you feel like the emotions are going to get you a little bit on Saturday, or the fact that you have March or maybe even April still ahead to be with them, does that kind of tone down senior day for you a little bit?
Yeah, I hope for me it makes me less thoughtful, at least pre-game and during the game. But we're going to do a little post-game ceremony over at the Ruth, and I think that'll be good. But I also think senior day is about parents too. I mean, took me a long time to become a parent, but like just to, the potholes and the obstacles that kids face nowadays, and to get to this point where just to be, at this university and excelling the way that they are, I think it's, I try not to let the praise and affection for parents slip by, because I think I'm going to have more opportunities with our players, but I think it's a great day to celebrate parents too, because I think it's, I always say parents are going to miss it more as much as the kids, because they're totally in on it, and they don't have to wake up with the aches and pains that the athlete has. They just get to come here and grab a beer at the concession stand and sit and watch, although that can be excruciating too, probably.
Flynn, what's that week off for you guys? I think we talked to Mac and them about it, that they've played 6 straight weeks.
Yeah.
Those Big East buys. What does that
Right.
do for you at this point in the season?
Right. Well, tell them not to play Calk and Steven 40 minutes a game, and just kidding. Yeah, I think it's good. I think, like I said, I think it came at a good time because Morgan probably needed it, and Molly probably needed it, and Jamie falls down a lot, draws 3 charges every practice. You guys see her drop charges in games, but she does the same thing in practice. So I think it came at a good time, and we're not the deepest team we've been. I think if you're a deeper team, it probably affects you less, but we're not a team that maybe is quite as deep as, our Elite Eight team. I thought was probably the deepest team we've had. This team isn't quite as deep, so I think it did come at a good time.
That first matchup with Georgetown, they didn't put a ton of game pressure on you, but it was kind of attractive to that certain fans of it. I mean, what kind of personnel do they have that's different from past years where they can kind of really put some points on the board in the quick spurt if you're not prepared?
I think they're a little better three-point shooting team, which allows them to get to the rim more, because you have to guard the 3 line probably differently than most Georgetown teams. And I think and Kelsey Ransom's had a really good year. She's really, just watching our film of the first game, she made some tough shots. I thought Mallory had her several times, and she's jumped up and shot it over. But I think it's primarily their 3-point shooting is a little bit better, kind of across the board than it's been. And I think I don't know. I'm still trying to get to know Darnell's style, but I think they're a little bit more. He's a relatively new coach, so I think he probably likes to play up and down maybe a little bit more than their previous coaches. Well, Glenn makes me pay attention to it, so I actually pay more attention to the net and the metrics that are going to determine what seed we are than the polls, because I feel like I was a voter and I actually spent a little bit of time, but you talk to some people and they don't spend any time really looking at it, and somebody could lose twice and drop 2 spots, and it depends who you lose to, right? But I pay more attention to the actual metrics that are going to be, determining what your postseason status is.
Is it a good watermark in terms of hey, you guys had some tough games,
Yeah.
some tough points to say, hey, we're back where we belong, I guess, in some sense.
Yeah, from a recruiting standpoint, being ranked helps, I think, and just people, people in the community say things to you because they don't get on the net rankings every morning and look at the Warren Nolan and Ken Palm and all that stuff. They just see if you're in the top 25. But I do think it's good from that standpoint because I think when you look that this group started 1-2 and we're now 20-4, so consistency. I told our team after Villanova, in our last 56 games, we're 46-10, and 5 of those losses are to UConn and UCLA. So we're 46-5. And I said, that's because you guys have the right approach. I mean, we haven't lost games that we're supposed to win, and that's not easy to do. Our talent level isn't so great that to go 46-5 against those teams, it goes to it points to their preparation and how much they respect every opponent.
Is it all about just that consistency down the board?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's what you do every day to prepare, and I think having an older group is for sure, important. I mean, if you look at, Molly Mogensen was Big East Player of the Week, and she went 0 for 8 in a game, and Kennedy Townsend and Mallory Brake went 0 for 10 in that same game total. So we had an 0 for 18 and we still won a game. Well, that's because those guys, even though they didn't make shots, they continued to play the right way, and we have enough other options and weapons, and we're prepared enough to kind of overcome, that. And I think that's a huge piece of how you win in February and March.
What did you do for your birthday?
I actually have cousins in the Philadelphia area, so we stayed overnight there. They had some not great weather too, so went over and had some pasta and wine over at my cousin's house.